Guys, it's Smudge here, and we're back in DCS again. Tonight I wanted to take a look at what I believe to be one of the most complex aircraft in DCS. A lot of people would say that would be the A10C, but for me I'd say that it's the Mil-Mi-8 Hip helicopter. Now this is I'd say it's a heavy transport and fire support helicopter. It's Russian, however it is used by pretty much every country in the world. In some way or another, at some point in the world, someone is flying a Hip. You'll see it on the news quite a lot recently in places like Afghanistan, Ukraine, pretty much anywhere where there's a conflict or something going on, you'll find one of these things flying around. The model in DCS is made by Belsimtek. And to me, this is a crazy realistic aircraft to fly. I absolutely love it, and for me, it is a pure challenge. Just operating the aircraft, flying it around, it's fun. Even before you get into implementing weapons and doing things like that, it is a incredibly complex aircraft to just keep in the air and to fly properly, and I really relish the challenge of it. So what we're going to do tonight, or at least what I want to do, is go through a startup sequence, talk about how to fly the aircraft, because it takes a bit of getting used to. There's certain things that you kind of need to do in order to make it work, or to fly the way that you want it to. So I want to kind of go into things like that. And then we might also have a look at some of the weapon systems and how to employ some of the guns and rockets and things like that. So the first thing that we're going to do is, of course, look at starting it up and making it work. So let's start there. Now, the positions that you have the pilot seat, which I'm in here. You've got the co-pilot seat, which is over there, and if I press the 2 key, that takes me over to the co-pilot seat, which he also operates some of the weapon armament switches of radios, things like that, from this side. And then in position 3, which is this guy here, you've got the aircraft engineer, which sits in between the middle. And this seat is very handy for doing the startup sequence, because he's got access to the million switches that are inside this cockpit, and nearly all of them work, and nearly all of them do something very important that keeps the aircraft flying. So the startup sequence. Over on this side here, you've got most of the power switches, the batteries, inverters, rectifiers, aircraft generators. You've got lighting switches here, and also the controls for things like dust protection in case you're landing in dusty or cold environments, anti-icing switches. You've got radios and things like IFF, locator beacons, things like this on the panels here. This is the APU and engine switches in the middle here. You've got the main circuit breaker board. The ones on this side, on this panel here, they handle the aircraft avionics and engines. And this panel here is everything to do with the weapon system. So all these circuit breakers are for the weapons. And then you've got the weapon armament switches here, as well as this little panel here is the weapon selection panel, which you use to choose the weapons that you want to fire. And then most of the controls on this side here are redundant. They don't really do anything. I think you've got to drop colored flares. I'm not sure if they're implemented yet. The Mil-Mi-8, even though it's been around for over a year now, I believe, it's still classed as a beta. It's not finished. But I believe that's simply because there is so much to it, that there's an incredibly complex aircraft. So Belsimtek are still updating it. It's patched quite regularly, bringing more and more into it. Now, the aircraft is unloaded at the moment. It isn't carrying any weapons. So the first thing I want to do is arm it up. Now, it does carry quite a substantial load of weapons. Just trying to remember my keys here in order to bring up the weapon armament screen. yeah, it's done on radio, isn't it? There we go. Aircraft rearm and refuel. There we go. So this is the weapon armament screen. As you can see, you can arm or load flares, which are held on the side of the aircraft. You've got your fuel there, your total weights, and this is for the hard points, as you can see, 1 through 6. Now the outer pods I'm going to put on the GUV AP30 pod, which is actually a grenade launcher pod. Yep, that's right, grenade launchers, so we'll stick those on the outside. The pods we're going to put in the middle. I'm just trying to remember which is the right one now. That was it. That one. Yep, that's the one. This one is it's a dual purpose pod. It's got a heavy machine gun in the middle and 2 small caliber miniguns on the outside. And then on this side we're going to put some armored piercing rockets. And on this side we'll put some high explosive fragmentation rockets. And then just keep us symmetrical, we'll load up the same gun pod on that side, so we'll hit OK on that.
Request rearming. Copy.
And then while the ground crew is loading those weapon pods onto the side, we'll start bringing the aircraft to life. So like I said, the power switches and everything like that are on this side. So the first thing to do is to switch on the batteries, which is on these 2 buttons here. Then turn on the inverters, which are there, and then you hear everything start clicking into life, and generators and everything like that start switching on. Now this is the APU and engine panel here. Now the first thing that we do need to do, however, is turn on the circuit breakers.
Rearming complete.
Otherwise nothing will work, so we'll just turn on the circuit breakers there. And we switch off those 3 which are to do with engine anti-ice. We don't need those switched on because it's quite a nice day outside. And as you can see now that I've turned on the circuit breakers, lots of little lights have started lighting up around the cockpit. So we'll turn on the fuel cutoff valves here. Then you can hear the fuel pumps kick into life. And we'll turn on the fuel pumps. Yeah, that's fuel shut off, that's fuel pumps there turning on. And then the next thing to switch on is the auxiliary power unit. This here is the fire warning, fire test panel, so you can just click through that, which just tests and makes sure that all of the fire detection circuits are working inside, and it's a good thing to do that before you start up the APU or the engines, just in case. So this button here brings the APU to life, the auxiliary power unit, which will start bringing more power to the aircraft, and it also gives us compressed air to start the turbines to get the main engines running. So I'll just start that to life. Now if you just look at the exhaust on the outside there, nice little kick of flame out there just as it comes to life. And then that's the APU exhaust gas temperature reading gauge there, and then that should stable just above 6. Yep, there we go, so that's the APU online and working, which is quite a noisy thing. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to start the left engine first. Now in the manual it says that you always want to start the engine that's downwind first. So if you know that the wind is coming from the right, you start the left engine. If the wind's coming from the left, you start the right engine first. So I guess it's to do with heat blowing back into the exhaust, possibly overheat the engine, causing hot starts, which can then cause technical difficulties. So first thing to do as well before we try starting those is turn the rotor brake off so that the rotors can start moving. So we press the engine start button and we get one green light. When the second green light comes on, up here we have the fuel shut off or engine stop switches, so we just bring the left one to life there. Now if we look over the gauges here, see the engine RPM needles are here, sorry, that should start climbing up. And this is the rotor RPM, that once this starts climbing high enough, it'll start the RPMs on the rotor turbine. Like I said, it's an incredibly complex aircraft. So just wait for, that's the engine stabilised there. That's about 70 to 75%. And then we'll wait for the RPMs to stabilise. Should be around 40 to 50% on the RPM gauge there. and then we'll wait for that to stabilise, and then we'll start the second engine. Just look at the external view, you can see that ground crew have finished loading the aircraft. And then from the outside there you have the grenade launcher in the middle of the dual purpose machine gun pod, and on the inside is the rocket pod. So that's the RPM stabilised there, so we'll go ahead and select the left engine on this switch here. Again we'll press the engine start key 3 mics, and then we'll bring the cut-off switch down, which will bring the second engine to life. And as you can see, the RPM will start to climb nicely there. Got the engine temperature gauges here, just need to make sure that they don't climb into the red. So just keep an eye on those engines RPM. Then once those stabilised, see that the RPMs are at 50%, or the rotor RPMs at 50%, and what we'll do is that will just increase the throttle there. And that should bring the rotors up to that idling speed, which is about 90 to 95%. Now the way the helicopter works is that the rotors are generally always spinning at around 100%, 95 to 100%. Now in how you gain altitude and how you move about is that you have collective pitch. And then I believe it's this gauge here shows the amount of pitch that you have on the blades. And at the moment they'll be flying flat. You can see that the flat but as you start adding collective, as you start pulling it on the collective here, it tilts the blades, which then applies more lift to them, and then that lifts the helicopter off the ground. So now that the engines are started, we need to switch power over to the engines from the APU, so that they start flying the aircraft. And we do that by turning on the aircraft generators here, and then the rectifiers, which are like AC/DC power converters. And then that's now the engines powering the aircraft rather than the APU, so we can bring the APU to stop by pressing that button there. And as you can see, the APU temperature gauge has started going down now, which means that the APU stopped. And the lesson for you is to switch on the avionics systems for the helicopter. You can do that by switching these 3 switches over here. And then on this side you've got the aircraft warning system. And then you've got the remaining switches there, which all do different things. They power different systems. I'm not going to go into them because, again, like I said, it's overly complex. You don't really need to know them, what they do, you just need to know that they're switching. Close up the blister on the side there just to cut down the noise a little bit. And that, for the most part, is the helicopter switched on and ready to fly. Two last things to do: switch on the radar altimeter, which is this gauge here. It takes about a minute or so, but you'll see this red flag will disappear. The needle will shoot all the way around, then come back. There we go. Then that sound that you hear there is to do with the low altitude bug, and you just control it using this little switch here. Hate it when that happens. So we'll just set that to about 42 meters, which will be our minimum altitude setting. Just reset our center view there. Just after that we'll list it with the mouse view. And then the last thing to do is to switch on the roll and pitch autopilot control. It's essential that you turn this on before you try flying the aircraft. You can fly without that switched on, but the aircraft does become a handful. It really does become very, very difficult to control. Now the other controls that you have down here, you have a heading hold autopilot, and you have the altitude hold autopilot. Then you switch them on just by pressing the button. If you want to switch it off, you press the red button just beneath. Now what we'll do is that we'll taxi out onto the runway with that switched off, but before we take off, I'll turn the heading hold autopilot on just because it helps keep the helicopter stable. It really kind of helps keep the aircraft pointing in the right way. So just reset our accelerometer here, which just shows us how much G we're pulling as we're flying about. And the last thing to do is just turn off the brakes, which are on the control stick there. Up on the collector just the tiniest little bit, just to take the weight off the wheels, and then we'll taxi out to the runway again. You hear a little squeak there of the air brakes, good for them. I was quite lucky that this helicopter has wheels, allows you to taxi out to the room, which is quite a good thing. Then we just pitch forward on the cyclic stick here, just tilts the blades forward and allows us to roll forward on the wheels. Just controlling the speed. You can use the brakes as well just to make sure that you don't tip the helicopter over. To turn here, so just tap the brakes. Start slowing this down a bit. And we'll just take on to the runway here. Pull back on the collector a bit here just to slow us down naturally. Like that. And then we'll put the brakes on just to hold us here. Now before we take off, I just want to turn on a couple of lights here, which is on this little panel up here. So we've got the formation lights and strobe light in the back there. Formation lights and side lights. And I believe it's that one is the strobe light. What's that one? Ah, tip lights. Everybody kind of runs into us. Now just a couple of things about the aircraft armament system. Like I said, it's on this panel here and also on this panel over here. Now when the system's switched on, and you can do that by turning on the circuit breakers here, you've got the weapon power switch here, so you can turn that on, these lights come on. You've then got the pulse switch here, which you can hold that down, and then that again, pulse or POS arming, it just arms the weapon systems. And then on another note, the actual master arm, the weapon safe switch is here, so you turn it on, you get a big red light that shows that your weapons are armed, and turn it off just when I assume we're not going to be firing anything yet. And that is us, pretty much good to go. Like I said, I'm going to turn on the heading hold autopilot switch there. Just helps with takeoff as we're rolling out. And I believe that's everything set to where it needs to be before we decide to take off and climb here. So I'm just going to add in just a little bit more collective. Take off the brakes and then start pushing the cyclic forward. Just adding just a little bit more collective here. What I'm going to do is roll out almost like a conventional aircraft, just to build up airspeed on the ground. Now, this is quite a heavy helicopter, and the more forward momentum you can get, the better lift you'll get from the rotor blades. So just picture like a standard aircraft, but with the wings travelling faster than the body. So we'll just start pitching up collective here, pulling back on the cyclic just to keep this nice and level, and that's us airborne. And we'll just start climbing out here, try and stay nice and straight. But again, just minor adjustments on the cyclic stuff here. and that's us up north. There we go, just clearing the master alarm down here to do with the fire warning. And that's us airborne. She's definitely a very ugly looking aircraft, but you know, it has its uses. Now, the next thing to talk about is actually turning the aircraft. Now, with the roll and pitch and heading hold autopilot switched on, you can find out you can roll the aircraft, but it doesn't want to turn. It will try its best to maintain its current direction of travel. Now, in order to turn the aircraft, what you need to do is pitch the aircraft and then start applying rudder. Now, only once your feet are moving the rudders will the autopilot disengage, or the heading hold disengage, and allow you to turn the aircraft. So the sequence there is roll, then rudder. Now when you get to where you need to be, you come off the rudder and then roll out. And I found that's the easiest way in order to turn the helicopter to keep it stable in flight. Now what you can also do there is turn on the altitude hold, and as you can see our descent indicator, or climb and descent indicator there will just level off, which means that we're flying nice and straight. And I'm now flying the helicopter hands on. You know, I'm not touching the stick, I'm not touching the pedals. The helicopter's autopilot is keeping it straight level and continues flying. Now you can turn the aircraft without actually touching the stick. With this knob here with the heading hold on, all you need to do is start turning that knob, and as you can see, it starts turning the aircraft. Which again is a good way of making small course corrections without unsettling the helicopter and without throwing yourself all over the sky. So we'll just make some left-hand turn course corrections here, just to take us to where we need to be. Maybe a bit too much, so we'll start bringing that back. There we go. And that's the aircraft turning itself using the autopilot and not influencing the stick or the rudders in any way at the moment. And there we go, that's pretty much out on our way to the target range over there. Now one thing to note with this aircraft is that it doesn't like hovering very much. You can make it hover, but it takes a lot of effort. And also, if you start sinking while you're below about 20 or 30 knots, the rotors can enter their own vortex, and it causes the rotor blades to stall. And then you come crashing out of the sky, and you will hit the ground and blow up, which isn't very good. So when you're descending, or when you're coming into land, you always need to make sure that you're either travelling forward at good airspeed, or if you're in a hover, you never fall below 2 or 3 meters a second in descent. If you get down to about 5 meters a second, then you are going to end up damaging the helicopter and probably killing yourself. Now, the weapon switches, this is incredibly complex. I know kind of what the switches do, but how to describe it is a bit difficult. So, this switch here, it controls which pylons you want to fire. We've got 1 and 2 and 5 and 6, or 3 and 4, which are young ones. ABT there is automatic, which we'll just leave it in there, because when you select the weapon that you want to fire, that will then automatically determine which pylon you fire. This here is to do with burst length. We've got 4, 8 and 16, which is to do with the rockets. So we fire 4 rockets, 8 rockets, or 16 rockets in one silo. Also for the machine guns, it is to do with burst length. You've got short, medium and long burst length. This switch here you can move down to PC, which is, or RC in rusty syllables is to do with rocket arming and firing. The other two don't have functions in the game, I believe, at the moment. NKT is to do with a nose-mounted machine gun. I forget what the other one does, to be honest. Now this is the most important switch here. It's to do with arming the certain weapons. You've got the top one there, 800, is to do with rockets and also one of the machine gun pods. You've got the second 800 there is to do with the alternate 170 machine gun pods, and then the 622 there is for the grenade launchers. But also you have to set the weapon control on this side. When it's down in this position, it's to fire rockets. Then to fire the machine gun pods, you need to move it up into this position here. Like I said, it is incredibly complex. I know I'm probably not describing it very well, but that's generally how to make the weapons work. So just to go through that again, you switch on the weapon power through these circuit breakers, weapon power switch, hit the POS arming, turn on the master arm switch. You then need to select the weapon type that you want to fire. Now that's safe, so at the moment we'll see if we can fire off our rockets first. And then we'll make sure that our rocket switch is downmost on that side so that the rockets are selected. And then the next time we make the pass over our target range, which is just down here, you can see some soft trucks that we've got just there. Then hopefully we will fire some rockets and we'll kill something. Now when I armed up the rockets, I took a mixed load of armoured piercing, KOM is the symbol for the armoured piercing rockets, and the FTP, which is high explosive fragmentation, which is good against armoured targets, and softly armoured targets in infantry. Just get a little bit of airspeed here, pull away from the target. Just lose some altitude here as well as we're doing that. And then we'll turn back around, set ourselves up for the rocket attack, and see if we can't kill something. So I'm going to set the burst length to long, so we'll just fire all our rockets in one pass. The rocket switch is armed as we all need to be there. Kind of set as it needs to be. Just turn off the light straight on. Then just descending slightly here, but so a safe rate of descent, considering the fact that I've got so much forward momentum. If I was hovering or travelling at slow speed, descending at this sort of rate would be lethal. So just steady out the aircraft and turn around back on target. Again, using the rudders here and a little bit of roll in order to make a quick turn about. That way, there we go, so I'll come off the rudders just to lock in our heading, and then we'll roll out, and then that should be us pretty much pointing dead on at target. Now on the gun sight here, you can adjust, as you can see, the azimuth of the gun sight. Now as default it's set to 70, which is pretty much standard for all of the weapons. For rockets, when that's set to 70, it's the rocket zeroed out to about a range of 1 kilometre. So that's a handy thing to know as well. So we're just heading towards these soft targets here. And then as we get closer, I'll just drop my crosshair on there, and then we'll fire off all of our rockets and see if we can't hit something. So we'll just confirm that the mastering's on, weapons are on, definitely. Now I've got the rockets selected as they need to be. That all seems to be fine. So we'll just roll in and target here, and see if we can't do some damage. So we're getting just into about range here. I think that looks about right. I'm just going to sink my crosshairs down over target. I think that should be about right. So I fired off one there just for marker, and fired off a good salvo. There we go. Good effect on target. And then again we'll just pull on. Got one or two there. That wasn't a bad pass. Again, just using the rudders just to lock out our heading, and then controlling with the rudder. Just setting the autopilot back up there just to keep us nice and stable. Central trims. Occasionally the autopilot decides that it doesn't really want to play the game, so you just need to kill it, center the trims, re-engage it, and then it'll keep the aircraft flying nicely. So the next thing I want to do, seeing we've fired off our rockets, is to arm up the machine guns. So I'm going to move that into the up position over there. In the upwards position, and I just want to try this here, this should fire the heavy machine guns on the gun pods. No, in fact that's firing the grenade launchers there. So we'll move that into the downwards position, that's right, and then that should be the light machine guns, and then 6 to 2, that should be the heavy machine guns. As you can see there, we'll fire these off. That's the light machine guns. I was right the first time, and then that's the heavy machine guns. Still got some rockets to see what damage we can do with these heavy machine guns. Now also the grenade launchers at the top there, one thing you will find with these is that they actually fire upwards. As you can see, we've got quite a high trajectory, and then they come down almost vertically in target. Now they don't have much of a range on them, and in order to actually be accurate or effective with them, you kind of need to be hovering at about a kilometre from the target, and then just spanning away with the grenade launcher until you start hitting targets. So just turn about here. Not the prettiest of turns, but we're pointing in the right directions. And we'll start heading back in towards target. Now one thing you will find if you adjust the collective, so if you move the collective up or down, that's the altitude hold off. So just try and get the collective as close as you can so that you're not gliding with descending, and then bring the altitude hold in, and then that should keep you pretty much wavy. So again, just heading in towards some of the targets. So in fact we'll target some of these APCs here. Line up the crosshairs. Give it a quick burst just to see where the landing. Just a little bit short there so you can correct and then fire for effect. Just firing off smoke there, just saying don't stop shooting at me. Quite some good hits on target there. At least gave them a headache if they didn't kill them. And then just flying over target here. And I'll move that down to the secondary machine guns. Nothing really smoking there, but we've definitely got some hits in. And what we'll do is that will just make the combat turn here, so we'll just nose up. over and then she'll hopefully turn it off. She is. And here we go, inbound again on target. And we'll see if we can target this with a bunch of trucks on the left here. Get a recoil from it. Spraying out some lead there, but I think I missed them all. How about that? Just over speeding there a little bit. Helicopter's not too happy about building up that much speed. So we'll just trim her off the fly nice and steady. Again, not the most accurate passes, but you kind of get the idea about that a little bit. What we'll do is that will just arm up the grenades here for the rest of us. See if we can't steady ourselves into doing that. Again, because we're slowing down, I really don't want to let the aircraft start descending too much, otherwise, like I said, we start getting into a rotor stall, and then that would be very, very bad. As you can see, she's starting to vibrate there as she's starting to pass into her own wash. And then with this, we're about the right range here, even though the target's really high. We'll fire off some grenades. Probably find that they'll start landing somewhere near the target there. And as you can see, we're pretty damn close there actually. Just start running down a bit. Give it another squirt with the old grenades. A little bit long there. And that's good effect on target. Against troops or soft targets like trucks, having those grenades landing in amongst them can be pretty lethal, so if we fire off some grenades in amongst those trucks there, hopefully that's about the right range. Let's give them a bit of a squirt there. Spray and pray amongst some of the trucks there, and yep, we've caught a couple there. Good effect on target. I'll just see if we can't fly away then. Just safely up the left of this here. And turn the left strong. And we'll see if we can't start heading down. Now when it comes to landing the helicopter, like I said, it is difficult hover landing, can be very hit and miss. If you've got a runway to land on, the easiest thing to do is to kind of set up an approach as you would in a conventional aircraft. So kind of come down the runway and make a rolling landing. You can of course hover land, it is a helicopter, it's capable of doing that, but you just need to be very, very careful about the rate of descent. If you do end up descending too quickly, it will enter its own rotor wash, like I said before in will kill the aircraft. So it does take a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of how the aircraft actually handles and how it flies, it does become a lot of fun to fly. Just coming back to home base here, about 50 feet off the ground, about 50 meters. So 250 meters. It's in Russia. I'm allowed to go on. Some course correction to the left here, just to correct this course and take. It's just the ground coming up to meet us there a little bit. Just start increasing just a little bit of power here, just to help us climb up a bit. That beeping that you're hearing is just my minimum altitude bug, which I set, which it's a very handy thing to have, because if you're not paying attention, all of a sudden you start hearing a beeping in your ears, then you know that you're starting to fly a bit too low and you might need to pay attention as to where the aircraft is going or what the aircraft's doing. So that's the runway there, and what we're going to do is just set up a landing here in order to kind of land conventionally as a normal aircraft, which is definitely, I'd say, the safest way to land the hip. Landing in a hover, like I said, it is a bit perilous, and if you're not too confident in what you're doing, it is very easy to kill a helicopter trying to hover land. Just go onto the runway here. Start coming down on the collector here, start resetting the trims here, in fact a little high, but that's okay. I'll just start controlling the descent, just start slowing down, but careful not to get too slow, otherwise, like I said, we'll probably end up falling the aircraft. Just a little bit of collective here, just to steady our descent, and then that's us down. A nice, kind of conventional type landing rather than a hover landing. And then we'll just taxi into our little parking bay and shut down the aircraft. Using the brakes now just to slow us down, pulling back on the collective just a little bit, but you need to be careful with the collective on the ground, because if you're a bit too heavy-handed with it, you can tip the helicopter over, and bending the rotor blades isn't very good for the helicopter. Pushing forward a little bit on the collective here just to keep our speed up, using the rudder to control our taxi here. Now if you do want to hover land, you do have this instrument here, and that's kind of like a hover indicator. It shows you travelling forward, backwards, left or right. So if you do need to hover, that's a very good guide to help you achieve that. Pulling back on the collective here just to help us slow down a little bit. Pushing forward. bring the copter down to 0. And just put in the pocket brake there, and that's his stop, that's his part. And that's the hip, the Mil-Mi-8 MTV Magnificent 8 with a hip. And I hope that you've enjoyed the video. Like I said, this is an incredibly complex helicopter to fly. I can't kind of stress that enough. When it comes to complexity, you have the 8MC, which is probably one of the most complex system-wise of helicopters to fly. But it's not a complex aircraft to keep in the air. You know, it's a conventional aircraft. It's very easy to fly in a way. But the actual complexity of keeping this thing in the air and actually being able to fly it is what keeps me coming back to it. You know, it's a challenging aircraft to fly, and that's kind of why I love it. You know, that's why I love flying it. Just put the rotor brake on there. As you can see, we've opened up the rear loading door and the side entrance door. And that's the Mil-Mi-8. Now, I just want to say one more thing before I go. I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. I have been pretty much blown away by the comments, the likes I've been getting on a couple of other videos I uploaded of the Sabre. I have to say, you know, I didn't think that many people had kind of watched these videos, or you know, even kind of watched them enough to comment on them and say that they enjoyed them. So really, you know, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been watching and commenting on these videos. And you know, every like, every comment, it really helps. It helps me. You know, it kind of makes this worthwhile. You know, I mean, I fly this sim for fun. You know, I enjoy it. You know, I just decided on a whim just to kind of record some of these sessions, you know, my first impressions of the Sabre, and you know, I enjoyed the Mil-Mi-8 so much I thought I'd make a video about this. And again, you know, if there's anything that you would like me to do, if there's anything that you would like me to see, or another aircraft or helicopter in DCS you would like me to fly, then by all means, please let me know, and I'll do my best to make a video and upload it. And again, just thank you, you know, thank you for your time, and thank you for watching this video. And I guess that's that. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. And as always, this is Smudge, signing off.